Welcome to Community Media Feud, and my name is David Burton, and I'll be your host today. Our answers are based on a 2007 survey that was done of community journalists in southwest Missouri. We'll present the question, and then you can pause the video for thought and discussion, and then we'll show the answers. So on to our first question. 85 journalists in southwest Missouri were asked, what do you use to assign news value to an article or release? Feel free to pause this movie while you give that some thought and consideration. The answers to this question seem fairly obvious. They are exactly what journalists are taught to use in school to assign news value. Timeliness was the #1 vote getter. Something in advance of it happening is more newsworthy than after the event has happened. Consequences. Are there consequences to the community or individuals? Proximity. Is it within the circulation area of that publication? Human interest. Is there a unique value to this topic? Or does it involve someone of prominence? These are all used to assign news value. Next question that we asked 85 journalists in southwest Missouri. What do you think are the keys to producing quality media releases? As you can see from the answers here, meeting deadlines was the top vote getter among our 85 journalists. But it's also important to keep media releases concise and simple. Be sure your submissions are typed, not handwritten. Keep your release local, focused on the local readership area of a publication. Use AP style, that's Associated Press style, and be sure and proofread your material to make sure the media release is error-free. Question 3. To our 85 journalists in southwest Missouri, they answered the following question as part of our survey. What are the things journalists or editors most want contacts to do? The #1 answer to this question is meet deadlines. Editors and journalists live and die by deadlines, so be sure and meet them. Many of the editors and reporters also said they wish that people or their contacts would understand the process of putting together a publication or a broadcast, that they would provide a week's notice prior to an event. Don't call them the day before and hope they'll be there. But you'll also stay in touch with them, but don't overwhelm them with daily contacts. Be sure you respect the editor's news judgment, and be sure you always treat them as the professionals that they are. 85 journalists in southwest Missouri were asked, what types of useful information should be left behind after an interview? The top answers to this question from area journalists are pretty straightforward. The #1 expectation of information to be left behind is contact info or cards. They also like brochures and background information, photos or photo ideas, press releases, websites that they can go to for more information, and remember, under the Media Code of Ethics, do not leave or give them gifts. Question 5 of our survey. What are the biggest changes in the industry that impact your job and how you interact with a contact or deal with a media release? Some of these answers may be a surprise. Remember, this was a 2007 survey, And the answers to this question, what are the biggest changes in the industry that impact your job and how you interact with a contact or deal with a media release? The top vote getter was declining readership. But our participants also had concerns about media convergence, combining of print publications and expecting a reporter to do a TV report and a web report, converging medias. Less revenue means less space. Fewer staff, and they're also underpaid. The growth of social media is seen as a challenge, and also the increased emphasis on selling, even for some journalists and reporters, especially at weekly newspapers. Question 6 of our survey asked 85 journalists in Southwest Missouri the following question: what types of behaviors or action would make your life easier? In other words, if people or contacts would just what? Life would be easier for journalists and editors if their contacts would just what? 42% of our journalists surveyed said if their contacts would just pay attention to grammar and style and provide material with error-free writing, that would make their life easiest. But other answers also included providing a local hook for a news story, in other words, localizing that media release, submitting information electronically, learning from past experiences, don't make the same writing mistakes or submission errors. There's those deadlines again, meet deadlines. And then also, have patience. Sometimes the newspaper doesn't have space to get the story in, other news things come up. You have to be understanding of that type of situation. For question 7, 85 journalists in Southwest Missouri were asked, what are the most common errors you see in media releases? So 85 journalists in Southwest Missouri were asked, what are the most common errors you see in media releases? And you should learn from these answers. Be sure you take the time to make sure these errors aren't appearing in your submitted information. Top vote getter, spelling and grammar mistakes. Oftentimes very simple, very basic errors. Item 2, or the second top vote getter, was that information was submitted that was not newsworthy or too promotional. They also have concerns about poorly written material, media releases that simply have too much information. I try and limit media releases to 400 or fewer words. Then there's some problems with too little information if you don't provide the date and the time and the place where something is going to occur. Be sure you provide that core basic information, the 5 W's and a H. And then also concerns with media releases that have complex words. We use a lot of those, especially in science areas. Be sure your material is at a 3rd grade reading level. That's perfect for a newspaper audience. "85 journalists in Southwest Missouri were asked, what common AP errors are the most frequent and irritating? AP refers to Associated Press style, which is what is used in newspaper and journalist writing. So, which top AP style errors got the most votes in this survey? Well, it was close among 6. Title capitalization. A person's job title, if it comes after their name, is not capitalized. Then they also commonly see problems with spacing and commas. In AP style, there's only one space after a period and the start of the next sentence. Also, punctuation with quote marks. Punctuation always goes inside the quotation marks. Then there's the issue of the time, date, location sequence. You always give the time of the event, the date, and then the location. Numbers under 10 are spelled out. Over 10, you use the numeral. And then also time acronyms, the 12 a.m. or 12:30 a.m., proper use of that. Those are the most common AP error style errors that are found. "85 journalists in Southwest Missouri were asked, what types of topics would you like more of in stories or media releases?" So the question is, what types of topics would you like more of in stories and media releases? And ironically, these top 6 vote getters all apply to areas that University of Missouri Extension does work. The top vote getter, lawn and garden. That's a very popular topic, especially in Southwest Missouri. Top 2, next top vote getter, home maintenance and repair topics. Then also issues dealing with youth development, nutrition, agriculture and livestock, and business development. Those are all areas that MU Extension specialists work in and can write media releases on or deliver research-based information to news media on. Again, those are all very key areas, and that's the type of information that local journalists and editors say they would like to see more information on in stories and media releases. Now here's a different question for our community media family feud. This is based on a 2008 study. The question is, what are the biggest influences on the decisions in choosing products and services? Give it some thought. Now the answers to this tie-breaking question should provide you some guidance on how to market programs or events that you have coming up. So based on this 2008 study, what are the biggest influences on the decisions in choosing products and services? Top vote getter, word of mouth. Different research projects have that as high as 80% of the population influenced in their purchasing decisions for products and services, most influenced by word of mouth. Next comes newspapers, store displays, television, newspapers. Now in small communities with weekly newspapers, that influence is even higher than the 44%. Coupons, radio advertisement, and last is websites. So when you're marketing or planning an event, don't leave out word of mouth, using people to spread the word about your event and talk to their friends and neighbors about it. But also remember, these media outlets here, they still have a high degree of impact and can influence people's decisions. So there you have it. Thanks for playing Community Media Feud, and hopefully in the process you learned something about media relations and how to work more effectively with your local newspaper editors and reporters.